This is the Final Lap Weekly, a show where a couple of guys talk about all things NASCAR. My name's Kerry Murphy. I'm a longtime host of all things The Final Lap. Co-host for the show is Toby Christie, founder and editor-in-chief at TobyChristieCom and Racing America.
Whoa, man, I just got jobs hanging out my ears at this point, right?
No kidding. You're going to have a long list like Patreon. You're going to have a whole list of things that you're in charge of.
Yeah, no, I think you're onto something there. It's a lot of stuff, but it's fun to do as well.
Who are those awesome Patreon people that we like to mention here at the top of the show?
Yeah, so our sponsors of the show. Let's go ahead and mention them right now. We've got wait a minute. Do we have somebody? No, okay, Devin's here still. Okay, gotcha. I thought we had somebody new. So we've got Joe Bike, longtime sponsor of the show, longest tenured sponsor of our show. Thank you, Joe. We appreciate you there at the Only at Mattress Giant level tier. We also have Louisville Max, Jacob Burt, Mr. Fantasy Racing player over there with Mr. Rowdy Dragon every single season at the Ultimate Final Lappers tier. Shirts, stickers, everything have been mailed out to Max. He's got stuff coming his way. I've got decals coming out for other people in the next few days, but they're on the way to Max. He should probably have them by the time he's listening to this show. So let us know how those turned out, Max. And of course, Devin, mentioned him just a moment ago. He is our third sponsor of the show. Thank you, Devin. And thank you, everyone. And thank you, all the people that aren't at the sponsorship tier as well. We appreciate you, each and every one of you guys, and we'll talk about you guys at the end of the show.
Yeah, for sure. And I want to mention we are firing up the old YouTube thing again. We're giving that a shot. We're doing a kind of a crude recording right now. We eventually want to do it live. But right now we're doing a Skype recording, so the video and the audio isn't quite there yet. But we're giving that a shot. Toby dialed it all up with a cool template overlay last week. And right now it's at your YouTube channel. The ultimate goal is to put it on your YouTube channel as well as the Final Lap one, but we need more subs over on the Final Lap side. So do a couple of things. Go to Toby's YouTube channel, which is
TobyChristieCom.
Okay. And then also go to youtube.com/thefinallap and hit subscribe there. And that way, eventually, we're going to post in both places and you can watch it wherever you'd like.
Anytime you'd like, anywhere you'd like. You could watch it on a sweater. I'm sure you probably could, right?
On a sweater?
Yeah, if you put your phone in your sweater, you could probably watch it, right?
Okay. Maybe some sort of projector. It's like 105 degrees here. The last thing I want to talk about is a sweater, to be honest.
Well, if we have any listeners that are in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, there's a local station there, The Ticket, and there's this guy, Rich Phillips, and there was always this running ad for one of the streaming services, and it's like, man, it's so convenient. You could watch your shows on a sweater. That was just what he always said. It was just a funny running gag. It's dumb if you don't listen to it. But hey, so if anybody's from the DFW area, they probably picked up on the sweater thing.
All right. Let's get into Pocono, but albeit it's going to be a little brief because we're, late into Thursday.
Yeah, Kerry had like the 30th vacation of the year. Man, look at you go.
I've got another one coming up later next month, too. So
I'm so jealous.
And then one in December, too. Yeah, we get out. That's what happens when you surgical strike stuff.
That's right. You got time to do other things.
Right. So let's talk about Pocono, and let's just go right to victory lane. A very unpopular win as he emerged from his car to a shower of boos. We're talking about Denny Hamlin. We'll run down the stats here and then talk about the controversy. Second win this season, 50th career milestone Cup Series win. That's pretty amazing. 7th career Pocono win. And he goes back-to-back for Joe Gibbs Racing with Truex winning the week before. And also 600 for Toyota. So let's unpack all of that. Why was it unpopular?
Well, so the funny thing is, I just want to say that if Dale Earnhardt was watching this all go down in the reaction to this finish, he'd probably be laughing his butt off because
it was a nothing burger, to be honest.
It was. It was pretty tame by like standards of hard racing and contact. There was slight contact. They were very close, and it's very close to the same maneuver he pulled on Ross Chastain a year ago. But I think the big thing is that Kyle Larson, who's the guy that he was battling with for the win in the closing laps, felt like he didn't deserve to be raced the same way that Hamlin raced Chastain in the same situation a year ago. I think with these cars, they're so sensitive, man, when the air is taken off the sides of them and stuff like that, that it's really hard to kind of keep it down and stuff like that. And you're battling for a win. So while I understand people are upset, I know you're probably upset with Denny Hamlin. You never really side with him on any of these situations. I have a hard time totally blaming him because it's for the win, man, and it's two of the best in the sport, two of the best cars, teams in the sport going at it. It's a very important race as well because Pocono is kind of a really strong indicator now with the Brickyard 400 not being a thing. This is the only track really on the schedule where you have to have kind of all of those components to show that you're the guy. You got to have the horsepower down the straightaway, the aerodynamics, and the handling down those crazy turns. So there's a lot to it, and I feel like there's a lot of pride that goes involved with this Pocono race each year now. And but yeah, I thought it was good hard racing. What do you think?
For Pocono, absolutely. We can't forget the crowd though. Oh my gosh, for Pocono, what was going on there? It's like the entire state of Pennsylvania, New York, and surrounding areas all decided to show up.
And I'll say, like, last year's race was pretty good for Pocono standards, but I didn't think it was good enough to warrant a sold-out crowd. But they showed up, and what a race they were treated to, because for Pocono standards, this was a pretty exciting race all the way through. Had action all the way to the end, had a controversial finish, even a controversial finish from the NASCAR tower as well, because they chose not to throw a caution.
Well, see, that is the thing that made me the most upset. The fact that caution was not thrown, that I could care less or couldn't care less what Denny did. It was the fact that there should have been another re-rack and another restart.
Yeah, and so I understand what they're trying to do, because you have these situations at these ends, you try to let them kind of race things out, but it was pretty clear because when they got to turn 2, that's when Priest went spinning. You have all the way down that next straightaway, all the way through turn 3, and an entire half of another long straightaway to figure out he's not moving. So
do they not know about the Nimitz stick?
Apparently not. But I'm with you. I really wish they could have made that decision a little faster, because ultimately, who knows? We might have lost at any Hamlin win there, but the rules are the rules. And if there's a caution with 2 to go, there's a caution with 2 to go. It doesn't matter who's going for what win in their career, what milestone. Doesn't matter what just transpired to get them to the lead. If there's a crash with 2 to go, we call a caution. That's how we do things. So,
and it's a big track. They had plenty of time to figure this out.
I'm with you. And especially when you get through, they had to get through 2 turns and a straightaway and a half at Pocono, which is a lot.
Right, that's nap time.
Yeah, and he hadn't moved one bit. So I really wish they would have thrown the yellow there. Ultimately, they didn't, and they did, but they waited until the last lap. As funny as that is, so then you ruin any chance of racing it back anyway. But it is what it is. At the end of the day, we saw a really good race, and that kind of added an extra little layer of the onion too, which I think maybe incensed the fans a little bit more. Was it kind of felt like, oh, NASCAR did that for Hamlin, so they're already mad at Hamlin because he took out Larson, and now they're mad at NASCAR for handing it to Hamlin in their eyes. So it really kind of built that moment, and I will have to credit Hamlin. Like, whether you like him or not, he fed into that crowd perfectly. He had them out of the palm of his hand. He played it perfectly. Just really teed them up the whole way, and he's still doing it on his podcast. He went on Barstool Sports this week. He threw the double birds at the fans that were complaining about him. So I mean, we're seeing a guy that's not afraid to kind of jab back at the fans a little bit. And it's becoming very clear he's the new black hat, because Kyle Busch was the guy for so long. We've seen a total flip-flop now that he's with RCR. People love him.
That's a little weird. And the fact that people are that passionate and care that much, that's a good thing.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
You wrote some sort of words about that.
Yeah, this is it. Article. Yeah, I did. So this is, and what the article basically said, this is what we all fell in love with NASCAR with to begin with. We're all here, and the whole reason we're here is because of moments like this, where you had something that you were passionate about at the end of the day. You don't want these races where nobody touches anybody, nothing happens is controversial. At the end of the day, it's one guy winning by 5 seconds. It's like, oh, cool, whatever. This was a good race. Hard racing down to the end. 2 guys put it on the line. One went a little over the line, and the other one went over the line into the wall. So it was one of those situations where there were stakes at hand. You could feel they both wanted it. The crowd knew they both wanted it. The crowd didn't like the guy who ended up getting it and how he got it, and they didn't like the no call on the caution as well. There was so much at play here, and it just totally felt like people cared so much I mean, it was for hours after this race on Twitter and social media. People are still buzzing and going, that sucks. I hate Hamlin. I hate this. They should have thrown the caution. So it was just really interesting to see that kind of interaction.
I don't know what this Twitter thing is you keep mentioning. I know X.
Right, yeah, sorry. So they
yeah.
renamed this thing. I think they've done it because they started doing all these changes, and so they've named it X because you want to click the X in the top right of your browser now. Out of
exactly. Exactly. Bingo. Any way you look at it, good crowd on hand, interesting outcome, has people talking even through today. I mean, you can't ask for more from a sport. That's great stuff.
Yeah, and I also do a spot every now and again on the show on Racing America called The Bull Ring, where they kind of bring me on to talk one little segment about NASCAR on their show. And typically it's a pretty subdued little segment. It's kind of really just rehashing a couple little things. The host of that show, Alan Dietz, was very passionate and very enraged by the fact that caution didn't come out too. And it was one of those things where it's like, I mean, this guy is usually a short track lover. He doesn't hate NASCAR, but he just doesn't really care much about it. Right. And to have him that fired up about it, to have you this fired up about it, to have me this fired up about it, the fans were fired up about it. It's awesome to see, and we need more of that. And I hope we keep seeing that because we've had some really good races this year. We've had a lot of good energy, and it feels like the fans are really starting to let their voice be known, and they've got a villain now that doesn't seem to care what they think, and that's always fun.
Yeah. Let's head over to TobyChristie.com as well as RacingAmerica.com and see what's the latest haps besides the Denny thing going on.
Yeah, so I mean, we've got an SRX race tonight as we're recording this, so by the time you listen to it, it'll probably be over with. But Ryan Newman's the point leader over there, and he has never seen the track they're at this week, Motor Mile. So he feels confident enough that he's watched enough YouTube to understand how to run the track, but we'll see how it goes.
Isn't that how you do everything in life?
I think so,
check
right?
out some YouTube stuff.
Yeah, so he says that he feels confident with the amount of YouTubing he did, and just the fact that he's pretty good at adapting to situations, and feels like he'll be in a good spot this week. So we'll see how that goes. SRX race tonight. By the time you're listening to this, probably it'll be over with, and we'll see how Ryan Newman was right on his YouTubing. We'll see how well it did, but it'll be interesting. We've also got Catherine Legg, by the way, coming back to the Xfinity Series. She ran 4 races back in 2018, Kerry. She's going to run 4 more this year, so she's back. She's going to start this week at Road America. She's running the Indianapolis Road Course as well in the 07 car for SS Greenlight Racing, and then she'll have 2 more races down the stretch as well.
Well, very cool. All kinds of stuff here. Cal Wells III named crew chief executive officer of Legacy Motor Club. That's big, right?
Yeah. Now Cal Wells. I'm sure you remember the name.
Yeah.
GPI Racing, the 32 Tide car. He was the team owner.
Yep.
And now all of a sudden, after all these years, he's back and he's the CEO of Legacy Motor Club. So
how did that happen?
Great question. I don't know. It just popped up out of nowhere. They needed somebody to kind of, up that part of it. It's a brand new position for the team. They didn't have a CEO, and now they do, and it's Cal Wells, so very interesting.
Yeah, I can see that car vividly.
I saw the name, and I was like, what? Like, wait a minute.
I saw chief, and I just assumed crew chief. I'm like, wait, no. That doesn't work.
No, Cal Wells will be there. Here's an interesting thing, by the way, Kerry. So we've got AJ Allmendinger is 17 points out of the playoffs right now. He's the first guy out.
Yeah, what's going on?
Right? He's not going to qualify, and he's not going to practice. I understand you like Road America and you want to go road racing in the Xfinity Series and collect trophies.
Right.
I find that to be a big miss. I don't care how bad your team was at Richmond earlier in the year. I don't see you getting any better by skipping practice and qualifying. I could be totally wrong when this weekend's over, but man, that feels like a good way to just punt away any chance you had at making it in the playoffs.
Now, is it a legitimate practice or is it one of those, new 15-minute NASCAR practices?
Well, it's going to be one of those new NASCAR practices where it's like 20 minutes. I mean, the qualifying situation is very important. Your pit road selection is very important, which ties along with your qualifying position.
And he starts in the back, right?
Yeah, so he'll start in the back. Obviously, Derek Kraus will qualify and practice the car, so they will have pit selection based on how Derek Kraus does. But, man, I just don't know if I'd want to go cold turkey into a cup race where you're the guy trying to work your way into the bubble and not having any laps in the car. I don't like that.
At Richmond, you start in the back. At Richmond, you're basically a half a lap or more down.
Oh, for sure. We saw earlier in the year, Hamlin got put back in the back early in that race and got into some scuffles back there with J.J. Yaley and a few others. it's not easy working your way up through the pack, especially at Richmond where it's very hard to pass. So I don't like this call. I know that it's a decision they wanted to make internally, and they're all on board with it. Until I see this play out for them in a positive way, I don't like it.
We'll see, I guess. But, his heart has always been in the road course racing. So, it's not a stretch.
Well, then you've also got to wonder if this is a signal for maybe next year. Does AJ Allmendinger seem committed to the Cup Series? It's one of those things where there's been, a little bit of rumors on if he'll be back in the 16 in the Cup Series next year, or if he'll move back to a part-time Xfinity role or a full-time Xfinity role. So is this maybe a signal that he's not fully committed to this Cup thing going forward?
Yeah, which is weird because he was doing better actually when he was part-time.
Yeah, and so it seemed that way. And now all of a sudden, the last couple months, they've started reeling together some pretty decent finishes, which is what's got them on the cusp of playoffs. I don't know if the decision was made before they went on this run, but they've started kind of working their way back into it. And it looked like they were really making some positive momentum. But with like 5 or 6 races to go, they're going to really put themselves behind the 8 ball before this next race at Richmond starts. I don't like the call.
All right. Well, you heard it here from TobyChristieCom, and the guy who has that same name, he doesn't like the call.
Yeah, I don't. NASCAR doesn't throw any penalties this week, by the way, for Hamlin Larson.
What's going on there? Chase Elliott's probably going, what's the deal with that?
No, I mean, come on. This was a much different incident than what Chase Elliott got suspended for. Let's be real. But there was no penalty for that. No penalty for Ryan Preece going up to Corey LaJoie's car after the race, and I don't know what was going on there. Obviously, he got spun by LaJoie to cause that last caution, and he was pretty upset about it. He's had a lot of bad luck this year. But so there was a shouting match, maybe a couple punches thrown. It was kind of hard to tell, but there will be no penalties for that. And then, of course, no penalties for Austin Dillon taking his anger into his own hands or helmet and tossing it across the track at Tyler Reddick, who was driving by. So no penalty for that either.
Right. So if you're Kyle Larson, what do? You got to weigh it out. Oh, my teammate got busted for a whole week, basically ending his season, maybe. Yeah. Do I retaliate against Denny Hamlin?
Well, and here's
I throw a helmet at him or what?
Well, this is a point that Hamlin actually made as well, because people were all bent out of shape about Hamlin doing this to Larson. And he said, well, this is the same move he did to Bubba last year, and that's what Bubba retaliated in, and it led to Bubba losing a week. So right. You got to be really careful in how you do retaliate. Now, you're going to Richmond, a place where you can beat and bang a little bit, and it's short track, close quarters racing, and there's some things you can do and get away with it at a short track. Now, if you go to 1.5 miles and you hook a guy in the right rear and do some really questionable stuff at 200 miles an hour, not usually forgiven by NASCAR. So there's a lot more you can do at Richmond to kind of hide what you're trying to do to get back at somebody.
I have a theory.
NASCAR
has a formula. They have a mathematical formula. If driver plus owner, then no penalty.
Oh, really? That's what it is.
Yeah.
It wasn't much of a hit. I mean, it was just
even still, but Denny seems to be their golden boy. So
really, you think that's what's going on now?
I think there's a formula behind the scenes, and it on the other outside it spits, penalty or no penalty.
The computer's like penalty, no penalty.
Right. Team owner, okay, do whatever you want.
I don't know.
I sound like a 1950s robot.
I don't know if I buy that at all, but it is a good conspiracy theory either way.
For sure. Hey, should we let Rowdy in here?
Yeah, let's do it. I think he's ready to go.
I think Rowdy has waited long enough. He's paid his dues. He's waited longer this week than any other week.
Which is funny. We were going to do a really quick, brief recap here because of it being so late in the week.
Right, and we're already 18 minutes into the show. So
there you go. That's how we do it.
Boom. That's how we don't do brief. So Rowdy Dragon with your fantasy NASCAR stuff heading into the Richmond race weekend. Take it away, Rowdy Dragon.
Yeah, no briefs around here, only boxers, man.
Hey everybody, Rowdy Dragon back again with this week's Final Lap Weekly Fantasy Update. Well, that was a pretty good chess match at Pocono. Always a tough one to predict at that track. A lot of strategy going on. Let's take a look at the stages and see who planned accordingly for this track. For your first stage, we've got Rim Job 98. Your second stage goes to Speeding Bullet and DW All-Stars, both tying for that one. And this week we also have a 3-way tie for the win. Lucky V63, Skeet Yeet, and Louisville Max all came home with 244 points. 55 stage points on the day, falling about 11 points shy of the max being 255. Taking a look at Rowdy, Toby, and Kerry, as well as our sponsors. Looking to see where we fell this week, Rowdy Dragon finished in the 77th spot, and somehow I managed to pull myself up a couple of spots into P2 in the overall standings. Toby Christie, he finished in P16, pretty good day for him. Pulled him up a few spots into P85. Kerry Murphy, Jimmy is back. He had a pretty good race as well, finishing in P34, and is now sitting in 121st in the overall standings. Now looking at our oh-so-generous sponsors, Joe Bike finished in the 91st position, currently sitting 19th in the league. Louisville Max, P1, that's his second win for the season, currently sitting in P17. Devin, DL Racing King 11, had a good day as well, finishing P61. His current league status sits him at 151st position. Okay, let's take a look at Richmond Raceway and see who we can get for some drivers for this weekend. I've got 3 top tier drivers again this week. If you need to hear some lower tier drivers, if you're running low on picks, give me a holler, give me a shout out on Twitter or whatever they're calling it now, at the Rowdy Dragon, or Facebook. You can get Rowdy Dragon there as well, but I digress. Let's take a look at some driver picks. Our first pick this week will go to the 20 car Christopher Bell. He's got 6 races run at the track with an average finish of 5.7. He's got 4 top 5 finishes, finishing up there in 67% of his runs. And he's got 5 top 10 finishes. That puts him up there in 83% of his runs. Some good numbers there. Looking at his laps led, he's got 99 laps led here, averaging out to 16.5 laps led per race. No wins yet. Looking at his stage points, he's collected stage points in 7 out of 12 tries. No stage wins. Now with those kind of numbers for a career, Bell has to be high on your pick list. Looking at some of the loop data for the last race run in the spring shows good speed for the 20 car. His average running position was 5th best. His driver rating was 4th on the list. He had good balance as he was 6th fastest early and 3rd fastest late in a run. In terms of speed, Bell's total speed ranking was 3rd. His green flag speed was 5th. Again, he was 3rd fastest late in a run, 2nd in 4th segment speed, lending to his 4th place finish with an average speed rank of 4.25. Bell has been struggling to put up a top 5 finish since week 8 at Bristol, but I can see Richmond breaking that streak for him this weekend. Consider the 20 car of Christopher Bell for your lineup on Sunday. Alright, another driver to consider is the 19 car of Martin Truex Jr. He's got 34 races run at the track with an average finish of 15.6. He's finished in the top 5 in 9 of those races. That puts him up there in 26% of his runs. And he's got 16 top 10 finishes, finishing up there in the top 10 in 47% of his runs. Laps led has Martin Truex at 1341, averaging a 39.44 laps led per race. And Martin has 3 wins to his credit. Looking at his stage point picture, he's collected stage points in 21 out of 24 tries, and 5 of those were stage wins. I might add he has placed P2 in 4 stages as well. Richmond has been a good track to Truex. Over his last 9 runs at the track, he has only 1 finish outside the top 10 with an 11th place finish in his last run due to a late caution, but is credited with 3 wins during that period. You all saw the utter domination at New Hampshire, another short flat track. He's going to be hard to beat on Sunday. Looking at some loop data stats from his last run here has Truex 6th in average run position. He had the 6th best driver rating on the day. He was 7th fastest early and 6th late in a run. Looking at Martin's total speed rankings lists him in 4th, running 4th in green flag speed and 3rd in 4th segment speed. If you haven't run out of Truex's, I know my well is running pretty low. This is a good place to roster the 19. Alright, our final driver to look at for this weekend, the 4 car, Kevin Harvick. He's got 44 races run at the track with an average finish of 9.5. He's finished in the top 5 in 18% of his runs. That puts him up there in 41% of his goes. He's got 30 finishes in the top 10, averaging 68% of his runs finishing in the top 10. Harvick too has quite a few laps led at 1,235. That averages out to 28.06 laps led per race, and he too has 4 wins to his credit. Looking at his stage point picture has him collecting stage points in 22 out of 24 tries. Not too bad there, but no stage wins. Over the last 10 races at Richmond, Kevin has only 1 finish outside the top 10. In that period, he had 3 poles and 1 victory coming last fall. Looking at his loop data from the spring race shows Kevin 7th in average running position. He had the 7th best driver rating. He was 5th fastest early in a run and 9th late. His total speed ranking has Kevin listed in 6th, as he was 6th in green flag speed, again 9th fastest late, and 4th fastest in the 4th segment, lending to his 5th place finish. Kevin has been good on the short flats and should be highly considered for your lineup on Sunday. Now it looks like the weather will hold up for this weekend. Clear skies Friday and Saturday, and it looks like about 14% chance of some precipitation on Sunday. Okay, we've got 5 races left before the end of the regular season. Why don't you say we take a look at our current league status? Let's check out the top 10 here. Starting in 10th, actually in 11th, we've got a tie for 10th between Harry and the Hogs, old Harry Hyde, and K Suds, or Suds with the silent K. 9th place, Toby Bass Chaser. Sounds like a good lure to me. Now we've got a tie for 7th. Losing Makes My Dick Trickle and 2 Roxy. In 6th place, we've got Kiss My What. 5th place currently belongs to Joe Scooby Boxer. And in 4th, the man from Down Under, Troy Clark. 3rd place is currently rocked by Rocco Rocks. And you heard Rowdy Dragon sitting in 2nd place. Our current points leader is still Larson 2023. Now we finally hit 500 players in the league. It's nice to see some of you joining late in the season. We're getting close to the playoff run where we do a points reset. And yes, there is a trophy for both the regular season and your playoff run. So all of you are in contention for the playoff trophy. So welcome to all you new players that aren't scared to join the league late in the season. All right, that just about does it here. But before I go, I want to invite you over to TobyChristieCom to check out Rowdy Dragon's NASCAR Fantasy Sportsbook. I'm over there breaking down these head-to-head matches, trying to make heads or tails out of this and make it a little easier for you to make your decisions. Come on over to TobyChristie.com or check out your favorite podcatcher and look for Rowdy Dragon's NASCAR Fantasy Sportsbook right there. All right, guys, that's it from me. As usual, thanks for hanging out and listening to the Final Lap Weekly Fantasy segment of the show. I am Rowdy Dragon. We'll talk to you again next week.
All right, there you have Rowdy Dragon with your fantasy NASCAR picks for Richmond Raceway this coming weekend. Thank you so much to him for waiting a couple of days, hours, I don't know, a little bit. I alerted him ahead of time that it was going to record later this week, and he's like, nope, I want to stay on schedule. Okay.
Yes, sir, Mr. Rowdy. Whatever you need to do.
So I don't want to interrupt the process.
Right. If the guy's got his creative juices flowing, you just let him do it, man. That's it.
Exactly.
He knows what he's doing.
So thank you to him for being just so on the ball all the time,
yes.
Even when we're not.
Yes, he's actually got an episode of Rowdy Dragon Sportsbook that I've got to get posted up after this. So the guy is nonstop.
Got Rowdy Dragon coming out of your ears, literally, and in your ears.
Yeah, yep. In my ears, out of my ears, everywhere. On my walls. Yep. It's a pain in the ass to get off the walls, too.
Is it a special Q-tip?
No, I mean, it's going to have to be bigger than a Q-tip.
Okay.
Dragon guts are very, very slimy.
Okay. I wasn't aware. Let's head into Richmond Raceway this weekend and put our 2 cents worth in. It's a 0.75-mile oval, banking in turns 1 and 2, 14 degrees. The front and back stretches are nowhere near equidistant. We got 1290 on one side, 860 on the other side. Cup race, though, is 400 laps, 300 miles. Stages, 70, 160, and another 170. So it ends on lap 400, I guess.
Yes, that is the math. That it works out perfectly.
We got pole sitter from the spring was Ross Chastain, and the spring race winner was Kyle Larson. I didn't bother to look for last year.
Now, won't that make things intriguing if Kyle Larson and Denny Hamlin seem to find themselves up front late in this thing? That
would make things. And Denny,
he's usually pretty good here. Yeah, as long as he doesn't get caught up in something early and get a pit road penalty or something, he's usually up there at Richmond. So
one of his 8 home racetracks.
Kind of like Martin Truex Jr. There's a few guys on the schedule that've got lots of home tracks.
The Eastern Seaboard is all theirs.
Well, at least Hamlin's are in his hometown, like his home state, at least. Like Truex is, he's put up franchises everywhere.
Right, exactly. We've got some drivers to watch, don't we?
Yeah, we totally do. I mean, I think start looking at things. And do you want to go down this by least wins first and work our way up to most wins?
Well, yeah, that seems logical.
Yeah, let's do that. So let's look at a guy who's been coming to life here pretty recently, actually. His season kind of got off to a little bit of a rocky start. He won Atlanta early on in the year. But it just looked like that team was a little bit off. But all of a sudden lately, they've really started to find a little bit of rhythm. Joey Logano, he has 2 wins at this racetrack, and he's starting to feel a little bit of momentum coming into this weekend.
And team owner Brad Keselowski of his
another guy
race
with
team.
momentum.
Yeah, definitely. He's on the cusp, I think. He's right there.
It's so close, man. Like it could happen any week. It really could, because he puts himself in positions to get these finishes, and it just depends on how it all works out luck-wise.
2 wins for him.
Yeah, and we've got Kyle Larson. We talked about him. He won the spring race here at Richmond earlier this year. 2 wins at this racetrack as well, so he'll be in the thick of things.
At one time, Martin Truex Jr. didn't have a short track win at all, and everybody was like, "Why don't you have any short track wins?"
Yeah, and then it was like he couldn't lose at short tracks for a little while too.
He's got 3 at Richmond, so wow.
Yeah, and they all came at like year 15 in his career, so it's crazy, right?
Yeah.
We've got Kevin Harvick here, the amazing retirement season he's got going on. He's going off in the sunset. This will be his last Richmond race. He has 4 wins at this racetrack, tied for second most among active drivers.
And Denny Hamlin, he's a Richmond, or I should say a Virginia native. He's got 4 wins at this racetrack, and he likes to, win in front of his, well, I don't know if maybe they've turned against him too, as his home crowd. I don't know.
Well, we'll find out. That will be interesting to see if he can boot at his home track. I'm sure he will at this point. It seems like everybody's got Denny in the crosshairs, so we'll see how it goes.
Right.
And then, of course, the guy who used to be the most hated driver in the sport, who is now one of the most beloved, Kyle Busch, leads the way with 6 wins at Richmond.
Wow.
So a lot of wins there. Now, remember, he and Hamlin, they were teammates at Joe Gibbs Racing for a while, with Truex as well. Think about all those wins there for JGR. 6 for Busch, 4 for Hamlin, 3 for Truex. Man, that's a lot of Joe Gibbs Racing wins. Maybe think about that for fantasy as well. Probably some Joe Gibbs Racing drivers can be doing well.
For sure. Let's take a look at what's on TV this weekend. Xfinity Series is in Road America, Saturday, 3 p.m. Eastern on NBC. Truck Series at Richmond, Saturday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern on FS1. And the Cup Series race, Sunday, 3 p.m. Eastern on USA. So 3 networks. Keep those in mind.
Man, that's going to be hard to keep up with. But I feel confident that we can keep up with it, right?
Yeah, well, now that they've listened to us, it's right there.
Yeah, that's true. That's good. Although we're later than the week, but that might be good for them retaining the knowledge, because it's sooner from the time they've heard us to when the races are happening.
It's fresh.
Yes. Hasn't had a chance to dip in the other part of their brain where it just kind of loses itself. It just fades away.
Right.
It's still in the frontal cortex, or is it the back? I don't remember. Yeah, somewhere. No, see, that's the information I'm talking about. I was told that months or years ago, and I don't retain knowledge. So if they would have told me that right before the show, I'd have it.
There you go. I think we're done with this one. It seems brief, but we're still like on target for a normal sized show, I think.
Man, this is how we do it. We are just like robots at this point.
We're damn good, is what.
If there wasn't video of showing us doing this, you would just think it's AI spitting this thing out each week.
Right, but no, I'm waddling around, having coffee. I got weird background stuff, so yeah, there's no faking this.
Waddling is a funny thought.
Well, I have a stand-up desk, so it probably looks a lot like this on camera. But I'm sorry.
I always figured out the stand-up desk.
I love them. It's great.
Yeah. Well, good.
It's fantastic. If you like this show, don't forget to subscribe and give us a good rating wherever you get your podcasts. And don't forget, we're doing video now, so you can watch us instead of listen to us on YouTube. It's at TobyChristieCom is the channel, and also the Final Lap at YouTube. So check out those 2 places for the, I don't want to say new video, because we've started this and stopped it and started it and stopped it a bunch of times. We're trying to get it done.
Yeah, I think this time we've got it figured out. First week was last week, and we're going to try a few more new things this week to kind of get all of the aspects of the show in. If it worked, you're going to be going, hey, what he's talking about now paid off because we heard it all. If it didn't,
there you go.
Maybe next week it'll be ironed out. So we'll see.
All right. Checkered flag flying on the show. This has been the Final Lap Weekly. Catch us next week right here when we will recap the racing at Richmond Raceway, short track action, and preview a big, bad, fast Michigan-style oval. I don't know what Michigan style is, but that's where it is. And all the stories in between. Toby, you and I will chat next week.
Isn't Detroit like deep dish pizza, right?
No, that's Chicago.
But doesn't Michigan have that too? Isn't Detroit pizza thick?
Detroit. I don't even know what that is.
Yeah, I think Detroit style is that thick square pizza.
It's Detroit.
No, Detroit. I'm from Texas.
Detroit. I know.
It's Detroit. It's D of Detroit, man.
right. Whatevs, man. We'll chat next week. And we'd like to thank our current list of Patreon paying people. Toby has the giant list of people that go to patreon.com/thefinallap and, contribute. If they like what they see. And boom, here we are.
Also joining the revolution. And here we go. This is, like you said, it's a long list, but we're thankful it's a long list. That means we have a lot of people who care about what we do here on this show each and every week. And they pay their hard-earned money to make it better for everyone else. So thank you, guys. Let's take time to go through this list here. We've got our sponsors of the show we talked about at the very top of the thing. We've got Devin. We've got Joe Bike. We've got Louisville Max. Thank you guys so much from the bottom of our hearts. We've also got Laylo. We've got Robert Keene, Jimmy James, 1983, Mr. Jimmy B, Quentin Whitaker, my buddy from Daytona. I can't wait. Daytona's coming around very soon. I'm going to get to see Quentin again, and it's going to be awesome. Wow. We've got Simon Green from across the pond, Troy Clark from Down Under, our Australian buddy. I'm sure he's excited about all these V8 supercar champions and stuff working their way over this way. We've got Peter Johansson, David Reed, James Maples II. We've got Evan Taylor, Mike Hamilton, Nick Reed, Scott Clark, Justin Kapasinskis. There's a guy who's probably pretty mad at Denny Hamlin this week, I'd imagine, because he's a huge Kyle Larson fan. And we've got Charles K. Miller, longest tenured listener of the show. I think he was listening to the Final Lap Weekly since before you recorded the first episode, Kerry. I think he was literally waiting in the room for it to come out.
I believe, if memory serves, we were doing like Morse code at the time. It wasn't even...
Yeah, he was already pinging some secretary way out in the middle of the ocean for the final lap. They're like, we don't have it yet. It's coming.
Yeah, it's got to get relayed.
Yeah. And Charles was like, don't worry, I'll wait it out. I'll be there.
It's a long time. Wow. All right. Well, thank you so much for listening. We will be back next week. And again, patreon.com/thefinallap if you'd like to join in on the giving fun.
And join our illusion.